Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovative Universities Global Webinar Series, where we discuss institutions that we believe can change the future of higher education. This is the first webinar of season 2. And before we begin our discussion, let me recap really quickly what we did during season 1. Zeynep, can I have the next slide? So we had 19 cases to discuss. We discussed them with 21 speakers. The cases came from 7 regions. I will not list every single university that we discussed, but I can share that for us, this experience has expanded the way we see the world in ways that we could never imagine. And we hope that this second season will do the same for you. Can we have the next slide? So our format remains the same, and we have the same team. I will start with the team first. So here you see Isak Frumin. He is the head of the Observatory of Higher Education Innovations, and he is the co-host. I'm the second co-host. My name is Dara Melnik. We also got Alexandra Martinchuk as our manager and Zeynep Tan as our student assistant. You don't see them, but they're always here helping us have a good discussion each time that is structured and organized. We're also lucky to have a pretty awesome steering committee who are helping us to identify interesting cases to show you. Zeynep, can we go back to the format? So the format will be exactly the same as some of you might remember from season 1. The webinar lasts exactly 60 minutes. We start with a short presentation of an innovative university, and then we follow up with the discussion with questions that come from us, from those of you who sent us questions beforehand, before the webinar, and from you who are present here with us during this discussion. Please paste your questions in the Q&A section of the webinar so we can see them and weave them into the conversation. And now I will pass the mic to Isak so that he can introduce our case and our today's speaker.
Dear colleagues, it's my great pleasure to welcome the president of fascinating university from Mexico, Tecnológico of Monterrey, and I'm very happy that they open, this case opens our new season. Frankly speaking, for me personally, it's super interesting because one of my mentors and later co-authors in the World Bank, Jamil Salmi, author of great book on the world-class universities, at some point suggested me to look at the experience of this university, because his point was that it's a private university, it's driven by energy and ambitions of people, and it played very important role in social and economic development of the region of Monterrey, but then of the country as a whole. And I'm very proud that in 2011, the paper about successes of Technology Monterrey was published in the book, The Road of Academic Excellence, together with my chapter about High School of Economics in Moscow. So it's very interesting. And the President Garza, who is going to speak today, he is not just a leader of the university. In 2013, this university decided to change the education model. It was successful already, and current President Garza led this work. So he transformed with his team this huge university. You will listen about this experience, and we ask more, and you can ask more. So without further delays, I'm happy to welcome Professor David Garza, President of Tecnológico de Monterrey, today at our webinar. Please, David.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Dara, and thank you to everyone that is connected in this wonderful webinar. Congratulations to Constructor University for this great idea. And I feel, first of all, I feel very honored to have the opportunity to share here with you what's been the history of Tec de Monterrey in terms of innovation. Let me start by saying that Tec de Monterrey started in a small house in 81 years ago with 350 students. Nowadays, Tec de Monterrey, as it was mentioned, we're a private nonprofit university with over a presence in 32 cities all over Mexico with over 90,000 students. We consider ourselves a comprehensive university where we have the different disciplines from engineering, sciences, and business still being the main student body. But as you can see, there is also humanities, social sciences, and other areas. But let me tell you that Tec de Monterrey also created a sister university called Tec Milenio. And this university was created over 20 years ago. It already has 60,000 students with also a presence with 29 campuses, which in Tec de Monterrey and Tec Milenio University, we have over 40 different campuses. We have over 150,000 students. And also, as part of the Tec de Monterrey system, we have what we call Tec Salud, the Tec Health system, that is our academic medical center and two hospitals that are part of our academic experience. My presentation, I am responsible of all Tec de Monterrey educational group, that is these three entities. However, I'm going to focus on Tec de Monterrey, the university that was created 81 years ago. Tec de Monterrey, last year that we celebrated our 80th anniversary, we did a study about the impact of our graduates. And these are some of the highlights that we found, that over those 80 years, they have created over 3 million jobs. They have created over 400,000 NGOs. Our graduates have started over 200,000 businesses. And you can see here some of the numbers of the impact of our graduates. Currently at Tec de Monterrey, we also focus on research in different areas, in different disciplines. Entrepreneurship is also a very distinctive aspect of our university. There is one ranking, Princeton Review, that puts us in number 6 as undergraduate entrepreneurship programs. And also something that is very special of Tec de Monterrey. It's our internationalization approach. Nearly 50% of the students that graduate from Tec graduate with an international experience abroad, something that we've been promoting for a while. If you look at how around the world see us, these are some of the rankings. We are among the top 5 universities in Latin America. QS put us in number 185. If in that ranking you filter for private universities, we will be number 30 among all private universities in the world. As I mentioned, we're private nonprofit, similar to some other universities around the world. Now, I would like to share with you and focus on innovation. This is the focus of this seminar. And let me start by saying that this has been part of our DNA at Tec de Monterrey. And let me give you an example. In 1965, it was reported the first college course on TV by the University of Houston. And we at Tec de Monterrey, we still are finding if the exact date was also 1965 or 1966, but very soon, we also adopted that technology as part of our educational process. And this is a quick timeline of some of the innovations of Tec de Monterrey. We were the first university campus in Mexico. The concept of campus didn't exist at the time that Tec de Monterrey was created. We were the first university accredited by a US accreditation body, but that were the first university that was not within the US. As I mentioned, the first course on TV, the first major in computer science, the first academic program in computer science in Latin America was created at Tec de Monterrey. In the 80s, we started with the use of personal computers. Let me show you. This is how some of the classrooms in some of the hall rooms were in the 80s. And you might recognize one of the persons in this picture, Steve Jobs in the 80s, giving us some recognition for the innovative use of technology in education back in the 80s. Distance education is something that we have been involved since the late 90s and until today, initially via satellite, but later via internet. You can see here some of the numbers that we have in distance education. Tec de Monterrey is mainly face-to-face instruction, but that is complemented with distance learning in this way. Tec Milenio, the other university that I had mentioned, that has different flexible models. They have more fully online programs, and also some other flexible models that if you're interested, we can talk later about that. Continuing with some of the aspects of the timeline, in the pandemic, we were all using Zoom. Well, we were using Zooms in 2016 at Tec de Monterrey. And then we also experimented with some new technologies like metaverse, blockchain, and so on. And as it was mentioned, in 2019, we unplugged our traditional educational model, and we started with a new educational model that we call Tec 21. The design of Tec 21 started in 2013. Actually, it was interesting to see the names of the universities that have been present in your webinar, because as it was mentioned, I was involved, I was responsible of that project. And the first thing that I did was to visit over 40 universities around the world. And I tried to visit all those innovative universities. Of course, I went to the traditional brand names that we know from around the world, but I also visited other, perhaps not as broadly known around the world, but that we thought that we're doing interesting things. By that time, some of the universities that you mentioned, like for example, Minerva, they were starting. So we visited them, we talked to them. It was a very interesting experience to learn. And we tried to see how education could be even better at the undergraduate level. Okay. Then let me continue with the presentation. Let me now focusing on this aspect of Tec 21 educational model. We found this phrase in 2011, 2012, and we fell in love with this phrase, with this quote. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist, that will be using technologies that haven't been invented, and they will be solving problems that we don't even know that those problems even exist. So this phrase, we were using this phrase in every single presentation that I was doing to the faculty, talking about the need to move towards a new educational model. Yes, we were already leaders in Mexico and very well known in Mexico, very well known in Latin America, but we ask ourselves, could we do even better for our students for this changing world that is coming up? Can undergraduate education, the 4 years that are spent here for our students, can we add more value from what we are doing? And you can imagine all the resistance and all the talks about if we could do, if it was a good idea or not, to try to change something that we've been doing for nearly 70 years in terms of the structure and the main elements of the educational model. That's how Tec 21 educational model started. It took us from 2013 until 2019 when we As I mentioned, we decided to unplug the old model and plug the new model for all campuses, over 20 campuses, for all different majors. And of course, it was an incremental implementation design that we can talk about that later as well. But the main aspect of this new educational model is that it's based on challenges, not based mainly on lectures. And we also like this quote, tell me and I forget, show me and I remember, involve me and I will learn. So we were thinking, well, when we provide lectures of Math 101, Physics 101, and software development, so those are isolated aspects where we want to develop some competencies in our students, some intellectual competencies and some soft skills competences that, by the way, I don't like the name of soft skills. I like more this name of power skills. And then when they graduate, the students will be facing throughout all their life challenges or problems. And they need to be very aware about, well, I have a toolbox that I have accumulated throughout all these years. I have this challenge or this problem. What tools can I use? And by the way, I'm realizing that there are some things that I don't know or that I don't have the tools. So how do I react with that? So with that thinking, we said, why don't we bring that experience as part of the curriculum, as part of the undergraduate experience, to expose the students by design, by structure, to be solving real challenges, but evaluating them in terms of the learning outcomes and the competencies that they are acquiring. Different from an internship, different from saying, okay, this year you go, do something, come back, and I'll give you credit for whatever you did that I'm not sure what you did. This is the challenge is something that is designed by a group of faculty. By the way, that was another challenge, because instead of one class, one faculty, now we have one challenge and multiple faculty. You have a faculty from engineering, perhaps a faculty from humanities, designing the challenge together with an external entity. We call it educational partner. Let me give you this structure to facilitate the explanation. So on the left-hand side, you can see how was our curriculum structure. There were 9 semesters, and every semester our students were taking a certain number of courses, typically 5-6 courses. So every program, the challenge always was, what are the proper courses that we should provide for every major? And within that course, how do we make sure that they are learning what we are intended them to learn? On the right-hand side, the blue rectangles are still traditional courses, and the red rectangles are these challenge experiences. Okay, as I mentioned, these challenges are designed with external, what we call them learning partners. These are an example. Every semester we have over 2,000 learning partners that we engage with, and of course this was also a big change, because now we had to find these learning partners for the development of our curriculum and the execution of every semester learning experiences. This educational model has got the international attention from different bodies, different institutions. You can see here an example of different places where they have written about that. Let me move on to share with you also about other innovations that we are doing, that we have been doing. I would say that Tec de Monterrey, since the beginning, has been very proactive in seeing, we consider ourselves early adopters of new technologies and see how those technologies can enhance education. And for example, here is also a mosaic of different technologies that we currently are using. We use one that is for distance learning, that is a near holographic telepresence, where this is a two-way interaction. The person in the telepresence can see the audience So in our case, where we are distributed, so it's different from seeing a class in just one square, as you are seeing me in this Zoom webinar, as seeing the person in full size and the person calling your name to interact with you in the class, even though we are at a distance. Also, during the pandemic, we experimented with different types of models, the global visiting faculty, and during the pandemic, we had international leaders, as you can see, Malala, Bill Gates, that participated in some of our conversations, lectures, because we thought that during that time we had to give even different experiences for our students. We are also, as part of what we've been doing, we are also on top of providing a full diploma for our students when they graduate. They also graduate with micro-credentials. And these micro-credentials are earned throughout the curriculum. These are some examples of different majors and where the students get some micro-credentials. We are following the trend of micro-credentials, and we think that in the future, there might be some higher value that organizations provide to knowing the specific competencies that the students have and the level at what they have developed those competencies. We also at Tec de Monterrey, we have created the Institute for the Future of Education. We say, well, we think that there are many places around the world where they are studying education from the perhaps public policy angle, from the pedagogical angle, but we realized that most of these centers were focused on K-12 education. And we say, why don't we create an institute focused on adult from 18 years old and older, and try to see about how we can understand how people learn, how new pedagogies, how new technologies can impact the students. But this is an institute not just for internal use, for actually for providing something to the community. Every year, we organized a conference. You are all invited. That conference gathers over 5,000 people. You can see some of the speakers that we have had, and over 30 presidents, very innovative presidents, have been as part of this conference. Let me tell you that also what we are doing sometimes is highlighted in different places around the world. This was something that appeared in Spain, but also some trend that we are looking at. It has to do with lifelong learning. On top of the degree programs, we are seeing the need of non-degree programs, the growth of that. Currently, we have, as I mentioned, Tec de Monterrey has 60,000 university level students, 90,000 if I count the senior high school students in degree programs. But Tec de Monterrey has close to 160,000 learners in non-degree programs. So we are thinking that this has been a small part perhaps of universities in terms of the energy, the focus that we have on that. We as Tec de Monterrey, we're considering that this should be a strategic focus in the future because of all the upskilling and reskilling that will be happening. I'm going towards the final part of my presentation. Just to let you know, AI is something that we're incorporating. We created our own Tech GPT, the first generative AI platform in Latin America. We are training our faculty members on generative AI, and we are asking ourselves different questions associated about AI. We think that AI will be very disruptive for education, and we are trying to think about how will be the university of the future or the learning of the future now that every person will be able to have a single tutor in their hands. We still think that there is a role for universities, there is a role for faculty. And some final thoughts. This is an animation about perhaps how universities are seen. Perhaps we are seen as a black box, where within that black box, everything happens. Design of curriculum, grade credentials, and I think that box is opening towards the future, and many of the things that we do within the university perhaps are being done outside of the university, and we should consider how we can have those synergies. And this is also another concept that I think towards the future, what I call from university to multiversity, that I can talk later. And just the final slide, these are some of the learnings that we have had throughout all these years, and things to have in mind when you want to do innovations at the higher education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Isaac, do you mind if I start?
Yeah, I also have many questions, but Dara, please start. Yeah.
I was just faster, I'm sorry. So my first question is, I like to think about innovations as constitutive and auxiliary. So constitutive innovations change the very core of the university. They are something that the university is unthinkable without, while auxiliary innovations are nice to have. They are on the surface, they strengthen a university, but they are not necessary for its design. So what are the main constitutive innovations for tech? Because you're doing so many innovative things, but what is there at the core?
I would say that currently it has to do with our educational model, the revamping of the educational model to move from this lecture-based traditional model, very effective, is very effective today, and to move towards this other model that, of course, there are risks when you do a movement this big and this bold. As I mentioned, we unplugged, and we literally unplugged the old model. So the fact that students are going to be better prepared for not just work but for life with these other changes. So that was a key question in the beginning. That has been a key question now today, and that will continue to be a key question that we are evaluating ourselves, and we are being critical to see how is that gain that we are seeing from the students. I would say that that's one. And the other, it has to do with this approach that we are now having towards lifelong learning. Something that we say, oh yeah, that's something that we do in the universities if we have time, and even in some universities, we ourselves, we call it extension. And that, to consider that as a core part of the university, perhaps at the same level that we have the degree programs, and say, hey, there is a big opportunity and responsibility that we have for all the changes that will be happening, and we are the institution better prepared for that. I think that that's another thing, because I think that there are not many places where are thinking, yes, that's something that we should do.
Okay, actually, this calls to my heart so strongly. I believe that everybody should be a student throughout their whole lives, because we don't really have any other choice unless we want to stay unchanged after we get our degrees. I do have a follow-up. One follow-up.
Okay. I also, my question will be also follow-up, but that's okay. Go.
So you mentioned the educational reform, and I've been meaning to ask you this question since I read about these words of yours that you once said in an interview, that to make that happen, you created, well, you fostered, you catalyzed mindset change at the institution. And that is a fantasy of all university transformers. All of them want the change of institutional mindset, the change of culture. And my question is, how did you do that?
Yeah, I would say it was a journey, but let me give you some key examples. One thing was first to do a public declaration that we want to do this. We don't know yet how it's going to look like. We don't know yet how long it's going to take us to do this, but we want to do it. We want to try it. And then first to do that public declaration. Now, words are taken by the air. So you have to go from the declaration to some actions. So then the other part was identifying these early adopters. These I call them champions, people that will embrace these, that that are always with this appetite of doing things different, and bringing them as part of a group, and then bringing also other traditional people way of thinking. So try to assemble a close group of thinkers to try to see the different aspects. And I would say that the third key element was to try to identify quick hits, things that you could do. You could try small, but from those things learn, get inspired, and also something that people, all of a sudden, people were looking their heads and say, "Oh, that's interesting what these guys are doing here." So I think that started to take traction once that we started doing those small things, like, for example, these challenges change that we did. The first thing that we did was we took 1 week of the semester, and we say, why don't we take 1 week where students can enroll in challenges designed by faculty members and so on, and let's just put a call for proposals. Who from the faculty wants to design a challenge and make it this way? And of course, there were many that didn't participate, some that, yes, they did participate. But then from that, we learned a lot. Of course, things will not work well in the first time. So that was also a part of the learning. But I would say that to identify those, to be public about what you want to do, to assemble a team of diverse people, both with early adopters, and to start designing some quick hits that give us momentum for this mindset. And because when you want to do some radical changes, you will always have some very small group that are with that. You will have perhaps a larger group that don't want that. And you have in the middle a group that are just looking which way to align. So I think that you should always try to take advantage of those early adopters and keep aligning the ones in the middle until the ones that are always against will say, well, we don't have another option. We are always left out, or we jump in.
Dara, may I?
Absolutely.
Follow up. Yeah. Look, so two interconnected questions. So again, in 2011, the experience of your university was praised in very important popular book published by the World Bank. And a year later, you decided to change education model dramatically. Yeah, I understand what Dara said, that lifelong learning, lifelong innovations, but it's still, I think that quiet life also has its advantages. So why did you decide again, when you already had super reputation, and I didn't see from the literature any problems, but you decided to change dramatically, I stress, dramatically education model. Why?
Mm-hmm. I would say that part of the DNA of our university has, don't be, I think that the word in English is complacent. Mm-hmm. Don't be happy with what you already have. I think that that's something that is part of the culture of Tec de Monterrey. And let me add to that, at that time, I was not president, I was provost at that time. Yeah. But the president of that time that came here to our university, he was not from an academic background, okay? Mm-hmm. And he was learning, and he was saying, well, he gave us the opportunity to say, what would you do? What do you think that we can do better? And of course, we say, yes, we think that we could do better. And but we say, but it will take time, and there will be lots of resistance, and there might be failures in the road. So we say, he asked me, how much resources do you need to do that? And then I made an overhead estimation, and I say, I think that I will need this for the beginning. And he said, okay, let's do it. So I guess that this opportunity to challenge ourselves and to say, yes, we can even do better. I think that we have a strong passion. We are a student-centered university, and we're always asking, can we even do better for our students? And in this aspect, we thought that yes, I mean, this could be something that can be better for the students. Yeah. So I think that I would say that was part of the nature of the DNA of the university.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it reminds me also during one of our interviews, Richard Miller, the former founding president of Olin College, said everything at Olin College has expire date.
Yes.
Yeah, but look,
and I remember, I remember that someone once told me, remember that as a provost, you are not supposed to do something that hasn't been done somewhere else. Because we always, as academics, we always say, well, has this work? Where are some references? Where are some things? So once again, was to live with ambiguity as part of the process.
Okay, but you did it very carefully. I checked the report about introduction of the new model, and it took almost 6 years, right? So could you, we know that our series is quite popular among senior university administrators, and they often talk about difficulties of transforming big organizations. So you indeed, your simple slide with this showing the difference between old and new model is quite striking. Yeah, the difference is huge. So what was the process of kind of rolling out this new program through 20 campuses?
Yeah,
9,000 professors. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Yeah, I would say that, like, going very quickly in my mind throughout those 6 years, the first year was mainly like a design process, try to think, visiting these different. I physically visited 40 universities, but virtually another 40 that we interacted with, and so having these sessions, these interactive sessions with the different groups to try to see get some ideas. Then in the year 2, I would say this was when we implemented our first quick hits. That was this: let's do 1 week and let's do this call for proposals. And let me tell you, when I visited some of the faculty in this week, I wanted to see what the students were doing. And the reaction of the faculty, they were so proud, and they were saying, it's amazing what our students have done in 1 week. The way that I saw them, the analogy that I always use is as a father is looking his son or daughter to walk for the first time. That kind of pride I saw in the eyes of our faculty. So then we said, why don't we try to identify one campus, one major, and 1 semester where we can do this experience for the entire semester. And so that's what we did. So I would say that it was an incremental approach that we were taking. We call it, the first one, we call it the I week experience, and then we call it the I semester, the entire I, and the I for innovation. And then all of a sudden we started saying, who wants to implement an I semester in their majors? And then people started raising hands and so on. And then we engaged into the formal design and say, well, how would we different our curriculum if we get involved these experiences by design, and then all the hard work by academies, by different groups started. And I would say that the parallel to that, there was some sort of faculty development program that started first in an unstructured manner, and then we realized that we needed to structure it for faculty to actually get involved. So I would say that that was the how we were moving. Then we say, let's do an entire major with this way, and we did that, an entire major in one campus, and then in different campus that major like that. And then was when we say 2019, let's unplug the old model and let's put the new one. Of course, this of unplug was for first year students. Of course, we needed to maintain, and that was challenging. To maintain the two. We already having done that with that. I want to finalize that the pandemic came in the middle of the implementation.
Oh my gosh.
And there was this in my leadership team. At that time, I was president. I started with the pandemic. And there was this discussion, should we go back? Should we go back to the old model because there is this uncertainty, this is new and it's challenging and all that. Fortunately, we decided, let's stick with that.
Look, again, I encourage everyone to look at the details of your model, but as being from private university, I know that we can have very nice ideas, but there is an accreditation. And your model looks quite radical. So did you, have you managed to accredit it? This new model, how did you convince the accreditation agencies?
That's a very good question. And let me tell you, it was part of the process. As part of the design process, we said, let's first not worry about accreditation. Let's think in terms of what do we think that will be better. Once that we had all the pieces in place and we said, yes, we want to run the university with this model by this date, we started approaching accreditors and talking about the model and having some visits from them to learn about what we have done. And let me tell you, right now, our programs are still accredited. Actually, I was invited, but I am part of the board of SAC-COC. That's the regional accreditation body of the United States. I was invited last year. We have maintained our accreditation, so it complies with the accreditation standards. Yes, it's different. Perhaps when they see it for the first time or read it, it's challenging, but when they come, they visit, they see the learning outcomes, they talk with faculty, with the students, they realize that the key aspects of the accreditation are compliant with what they do. So, summary, we have had no problems so far by accreditation. Actually, we have had some appraisals by somebody that say, hey, we should try to learn from this, and perhaps have done this in my university, some of the accreditators mentioned.
Super, very interesting. Dara, please go ahead with your questions.
I think that you're on mute.
You are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have two questions from the audience. One is simple, and the other is deceptively simple, but I think you will see it for what it is. So the first one is, could you please give us an example of a challenge that was designed by interdisciplinary team and included learning partner?
Yeah, sure. There was this retail organization where the challenge has to do with, these were some business majors that were involved in how certain products could increase their market share that they had in the retails according to the layouts of the stores and so on. So in this project, there were people from the business. There was mainly a business major challenge, the core, but also were people from like humanities, people that were responsible for aspects related to communication. And so they designed the challenge, and the challenge is designed broadly in terms of this is the target. The faculty say, in this challenge, I need my students to achieve these specific competencies and at this different level. For example, perhaps the humanities faculty say, well, in this, I need to be able to see how the students are fluid in terms of oral speaking, presentation, and written documents at this level of mastery. And they have a scale, they have even a rubric of that. So that's what the humanities faculty will be evaluating in the course. But instead of the students, I would say, as part of the challenge, is not that they just work in the company. Part of the challenge is that there are micro courses associated with the technical competencies that the students will need for that specific challenge. And like, for example, if this challenge involves some competencies associated with marketing, so the Faculty of Marketing perhaps will give some micro courses to the students, but those courses are directly associated with the competencies that need to be developed and the challenge that is being developed. So broadly, I would say that as an example. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me tell you very quickly that there were some ethics courses that business majors and engineering majors in the old model didn't like it. And now the ethics is embedded in the challenge. So as part of the challenge, the students are by design faced with some ethics dilemmas. And when you talk with the students, what did you like about this? They mention, and now they mention a lot, and these ethical aspects, and to get to know how to decide about that. In the past, when I talk with the students from the old model, they are always talking about, oh, these courses, you should take it out of the curriculum. They are not going to help me, and so on. So I think that when they see the connection of some of these competencies associated with the real world situation, they see more value.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The next question, the one that is deceptively simple, to me sounds like the question about a combination of educational philosophy and visionary perspective. And it goes like this. What power skill do you consider the most important?
Mm-hmm. I would say that adaptability. I would say that that will be the most important nowadays. That ability to, that's something that by design we try to promote with this model. You face a new situation, and seeing that situation, what do you know, what you don't know, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how are you going to close those gaps? Perhaps not just by yourself, but also by team members that should be helping you to close those gaps. And the world is changing very fast, and we're going to be facing always new things, new challenges, and I think that adaptability is very, very important. I was thinking between two, adaptability and resiliency as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would say that those are in the top of my list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, I know it's a qualitative question, but do you think you're training them well, and how are you trying to make that better?
Mm-hmm. That's something that we are focusing a lot. And for example, we had an exit exam in the old model that was given by an external provider, that was an external exam. And in the old model, we somehow consider the design of the curriculum for that exam. In the new model, we say, well, let's forget about the exam, let's do this, and then we'll see later. And we say, when we were going to have the first graduates, we say, why don't we ask them to take the exam? So we did that. At the technical level, we didn't see differences between the old model and the new model at the technical level. What we are seeing is now that they are in the professional lives, we do follow up of our graduates and follow up with employers. That's where we are starting to see differences in how they develop in the real world. So it seems that they are more adaptable, they are more agile learners. They are some people. Let me tell you, these learning partners, some companies where they do challenges. Sometimes they tell me, you know what, your sophomore student, I would like to hire him. I think that he gave better presentations and more arguments than my current manager that I have here. So I think that experience of since year one, the students having this synergy, this interaction, these frustrations of the real world as part of education, the educational process, is helping to have them more well-rounded when they graduate. We are doing studies to try to see. We are seeing that in many of the power skills is where employers see, I am seeing this difference in them. The technical, they say, oh, well, I'm seeing as well as before. I'm not seeing a big difference yet in that part.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Dara, I know the time is short, but David, can I ask two simple questions? Just
sure.
First, I know that in 1947, one of the sources, those people who started this wonderful university, that found very interesting source of resources for the university, lottery. Yes. Do you still have this source of money, a lottery?
Yes, it's still going. Do you want a ticket?
Sure.
It's still going, and actually we have expanded, we have innovated there. We are now digital, and it used to be one lottery per year. Now we have many lotteries throughout the year, and we have actually transmitted to other universities.
I see.
So they can also have their lotteries as well.
Very interesting. By the way, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology establishment was financed partially from Jockey Club, Hong Kong Jockey Club. Yeah. And second, again, very short question. Some colleagues from the World Bank mentioned that Tec de Monterrey played critical role in creating internet in Mexico, not for itself, but just it was a pioneer. You mentioned now that your university has LLM. Does it mean that your LLM will be also Mexican ChatGPT or something like that, and you pioneer with that as well?
Yes, we were the very first internet node, not just in Mexico, but in Latin America. And yes, ChatGPT came in, the LLM. So and of course that's public, and we talk with Microsoft, and we say, well, we are interested in having our own in-house tech GPT that can help us internally, and don't have to worry about things that are documents that, well, ones that you put it on ChatGPT is completely public. So we decided to create this tech GPT, and now faculty are starting to use it to see, to, like, for example, generate exams, generate cases.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Dara, we have a few minutes, please.
I'll try to squeeze two questions, because I feel that the first one is really important, especially now. So in the time of AI expansion, AI as a trend, AI as hype, and AI in basically every aspect of our life, your institution being an early adopter, what can you give us an advice to other universities which are thinking about adopting
non-yet well-tried, well-tested technologies? What are the do's? What are the don'ts?
Mm-hmm. I think that it's very important to not to prohibit the use of AI, but rather to embrace it, to define early clauses about we are going to be using it for that. And if you're interested, we have documents associated with that for whoever wants to do it. And the other aspect is to have this group of early adopters, of champions, to start using it in a controlled manner and using it for lifelong learning as well, which in that way, it's also another way to go faster.
Okay. And our final question. So imagine there is an innovator somewhere there, or a transformer, and they're thinking about doing something absolutely unthinkable, something that has never been done in higher education before. What advice would you give them?
You know what? I think that my advice will be this, and I'll explain you why. Start small, but maintain a vision to scale up very, very big quickly. I think that was the story of Tec de Monterrey. It started with a small house, 350 students, and now we are this. I think that was the story of Tech 21. We started small with 1 week, and now we have all this. So start small, but maintain the vision of scaling quickly and big.
Thank you. And that, our dear audience, was Tecnológico de Monterrey, our first case in our second season. Zeynep, can we have the teaser for the next season? So before I get to this, thank you very much, President Garza. It's been a pleasure and honor and a joy to have you with us today. Now, we have been known to jump around the globe, here and there, going from Asia to Latin America, from Latin America to Africa. Now we see a sense we will actually go to a geographically closed institution. So Tech is actually the first campus of Tech in Monterrey is in the state that borders Texas. And for our next webinar, we will not jump around. We'll just go to Texas, and we'll talk a little bit about the new University of Austin. So just a couple of minutes before, we were discussing that everything has an expiration date. Well, the University of Austin believes that that's not exactly the case, that critical thinking and the fearless pursuit of truth in education does not have an expiration date, and they're trying to breathe new life into this concept that has been with us for over 2,000 years. So please join us in 2 weeks. In the meantime, use the hashtag Innovative Universities if you want to discuss ideas from this webinar. Please tag us. We always respond. And thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.